I am a UX consultant. I freelance under Prestige, and I also own a user recruitment agency called I Need Users. So if you need user recruitment, there's I Need Users there, and then if you need UX freelancing, there's Prestige UX Agency. And can anyone tell me where this photograph was taken? So this was actually taken at Code, which is why I've included it. So this is Code when they were based up in like Northern Quarter area, is it? Back in 2011. So I'm not quite 100% sure if I introduced them to UX, but I think I did. So I met with Louis, we had a chat about UX. I did some freelance work for them. And then after that, they were really bought into UX in their agency as part of their process. So I like to think that I had a hand in that. So why is copy testing important in UX writing? Well, it enables you to make sure that your copy aligns with user needs and their expectations. So it gives you that user-centric approach to your copy. It gives you objective feedback as well. So to get objective insights from actual users helps you to identify and fix any obstacles in the overall user journey. It obviously increases the usability of what you're creating, and it provides evidence to stakeholders as well. So if you test the copy, stakeholders are always arguing against copy and which word is better. So if you can evidence to them why copy should be a certain way, it just de-stresses your life massively. So we're going to start with how you can get inspiration for which words to actually use in the first place. So we're going to imagine that you don't have a full website at the moment and you're wanting to test some ideas for copies. So this is the discover process. So what you can do is during any research that you do, not necessarily UX research, is you just listen to what people say and how they say it. So how are they describing their pain points? How are they describing your business and what you do? How are they describing good experiences that they've had with your brand? How are they describing how they feel emotionally? Even talk to them about competitors as well. What language do they use for that? So this is a photograph of me just a few weeks ago actually, doing some in-store shopping research. But even though there's no UX there, there's no technology, even just listening to the words that people are using to describe the shopping experience and how they feel and during that experience is all really interesting stuff that you can then use to put into your copy. Focus groups are a good one as well. So I think it's really interesting when you listen to people speak to each other, because they can forget that you're there as a researcher, as an observer. And then you get to hear how they explain, for example, your brand or your website in their own words, in their own language. So obviously if they were going to explain it to me, they might use a bit more technical language because they think that I know everything about the website and the brand. But to explain it to somebody else, they might use more everyday terminology. So that's really interesting to pick up on. Co-creation exercises as well. So if people are designing mock-ups of a screen, you can see what labels they're putting on there. How are they describing, for example, instructions on the UI? What words are they using? What tone of voice? So this is a really interesting thing to do as well. The love letter and breakup letter. So this isn't really a UX research technique. In fact, it's hard to find much about this out there. But this is something that I've used in research before. I've actually used it in focus groups, and it works really well to get into the emotions that people feel and to build user empathy. So basically, you can ask people to write either a love letter or a breakup letter to the brand. So I did this in a focus group for a finance company, And those people that had had a good experience with the brand wrote a love letter, and those that didn't have a good experience or a good perception of the brand wrote a breakup letter. And it's literally what it says on the tin, really. So people write this letter, you can see again the words that they use, the emotions that they use. And what you should get people to do after writing the letter as well is to read it out loud. And that changes things so much versus just reading it on a piece of paper. And these are normally handwritten as well. So I did try to find a photograph, but I think I deleted it with GDPR. But yeah, getting them to read aloud the letter is so interesting, because then you get to see their facial expressions, you get to hear the tone of voice, you get to hear how angry they are or how happy they are, and see their body language as well. You know, how animated are they when they're reading this letter. So I've got a couple of videos that just show this.
O cell phone, where art thou?
Dear single cup coffee maker.
Dear Sprint.
Dear little 4-cupper.
Dear my Sony laptop.
Dear Starbucks.
Dear Gmail, Facebook, Yahoo Group, Gmail Calendar, Entourage, Outlook.
I'm sorry, Cable, but I don't think it's working anymore. You said we couldn't go on the way we were. You gave me an ultimatum. You told me that if I committed to the digital version of you, it'd all be different. It'd be like when we first met.
You initially enticed me with your name, A Good Life.
You were new, untried, blushing with youth and a desperate desire to please.
Slender and slim, with curves in the right places.
When I met you, you were pure sex. Dark, sleek, and just dirty enough.
A hand-me-down from mom. Used but still sleek, shiny.
Somehow your allure sucked me in before I knew it, and I was spending $7 to $8 a day on you.
Took me to far off places I thought I'd never go. But it was always on your terms.
You've become so withholding. All these HD and premium channels for other men. For me, public access.
You're unresponsive, you don't get me to the right floors, and your doors just keep smashing on people trying to enter, making me appear rude.
The wasteful nature of your existence got to me.
And you never want to leave the house.
I don't know when it changed. All I know is that we both lost interest, and the only fire between us now is on our customer service calls.
I used to know just what channel you were on by looking at your face. Now I always have to ask.
An unconventional relationship, sure, but we both got what we wanted. You were paid by the minute, and I could get last-minute checklists at the grocery store.
You've been nothing but a constant letdown. I'm always waiting on you.
You lied to me.
Messages are not returned, dates are missed, people get mad.
You made my cat go bloated, irritated, and fat.
I'm always looking around for something better. Yes, even while I'm texting or you're taking my uploads.
I hate to say it, but I've left you for a younger woman.
Korik has won my heart. With his fast and efficient, versatile ways, he lets me change flavors at the drop of a hat.
She's everything you weren't. She's peppy, she's athletic, she's a little flirty.
We moved on to more natural and organic cat food that really is good and doesn't lie.
And I know I can get his services 1 cup at a time. Yes, I know he takes up more counter real estate, but he's so fast on the brew. It's time to go back to the real love of my life, my French press.
For New Year's, I gave you up, and I'm a better man for it.
And yeah, there is someone else now that you mention it. You thought it was Verizon? That just shows how little you know me anymore. It's Netflix, okay? You know, the other night when I went upstairs early and left you in the living room, I had Netflix in bed with me all night. It's over, Cable.
Thanks for the memories.
Yours ambivalently.
Hope you don't continue to harm others in the future and accept that you're not worth your time.
I'm done with you. Goodbye.
Okay, so that was an example of a breakup letter and a love letter. So you can see how the emotions really are conveyed as well when they speak those letters out loud. So moving on, another technique that you can use for this discovery phase of research is just desk research. So things like reading customer reviews, online forums, message boards, social media posts, Facebook groups, blogs, survey responses. If you've done surveys and you've got some open-ended questions in there, you can see what people have written. And I'm sure there's more that I've missed. But basically, we're looking at the words that people are using and why they're using them. And I actually found this one quite interesting because this guy says, I took out the full insurance cover despite my 40 years of driving without having ever needed to make an insurance claim. And I'd love to ask him why he put that, because I think all he needed to put there was I took out the full insurance cover. But he's adding to that, so there's obviously something going on there in the back of his head. Whether he feels like he didn't really need to take the full insurance cover, or he's wanting to brag maybe about his 40 years of driving without ever needing an insurance claim. Anyway, that's another topic. So what can we do when you actually have words already and you want to see if they're resonating with people? So at this point, you already have some copy. So I think Natasha said this in her talk, the earlier the better is best when you get UX writers involved. So we want to involve them really early in the process, and we want to test that copy as early as possible. So it might even be that you don't have wireframes yet, you just have some words that you want to get some feedback on. So I would always recommend just testing them ASAP, and it might be that you have some alternatives as well. It might not be that you've just got one version, you might have several versions that you want to test, and you just want to see if that's resonating with people, if they're understanding it, if there's any confusion there, and if you need to rework that copy at all. So don't let the fact that the designers aren't ready hold you back with your testing. You could also do what's called a comprehension survey. So this is where you give your writing to users to read, and then you ask them questions around that to see if they've understood what you've written. So you'd create something like an online survey that includes your copy, and then it would ask some multiple choice questions, like you see on the right-hand side, to test whether people have understood it or misunderstood it. And you should always have an I don't know option as well, because what we don't want is people just guessing, because then we might assume that they knew the answer, that they put thought into it, whereas actually they didn't, they just didn't know and they just chose a random one. Highlighter testing, so this is a really good one as well. So what you would do here is you would determine what it is that you actually want to test for, and then code a set of highlighters according to what you want to test. So it could be that you use a green highlighter and say to people, you use your green highlighter for anything that makes you feel confident about the service, or it could be something that you like or that you understand. And use red to highlight anything that you feel less confident about the service, or you dislike, or you don't understand, or, whatever it is that you want to measure really. And then afterwards you would ask them about what they've highlighted and why they highlighted it that colour. So that gives you deeper insight into the thought process that they went through. And then obviously you can measure that, you can analyse, which words people highlighted the most, for example in red. And if you're a metrics person, you can change that into statistics as well, depending on how many people you've seen. You can also do something called closed testing. So this is for assessing the readability of your copy and how much people understand it. So it's basically like a word blank exercise. So they fill in the blanks with words that they think should go there. So how you do this is you normally remove sort of every fifth or sixth word from the sentence that you're testing, and then people would write in what they think should be in that space. So there's actually two ways you can do this. You can do multiple choice answers, or you can leave them to write in the word that they want. And if you find that people aren't using the word that you designed to be there, but they're all using something else, then that shows you that that's probably the word that you should be using, not the one that you chose. And then obviously you can test copy in place. So assuming that the designers have created a wireframe, you can put your copy in there, and then us as user researchers can test the copy with the design together. So the benefit is that it gives more context to the design. It gives you better feedback than using something like lorem ipsum, which normally confuses people. So when they see that in user testing, they'll quite often think that you've made a mistake in the design, and you have to explain to them, oh, that's just placeholder text, don't worry about that for now. But it does confuse them in the sessions. And you can also test the comprehension here, as earlier, by letting them view the page for a certain amount of time. Then you can close it and then ask them to tell you what the page was about in their own words. So you don't want to leave the page up there and then ask them to explain what it's about, because they'll just read from the page. But you want to get them to close it and then tell you in their own words. So again, you're listening to the words that they're using. Eye tracking. So this is a fancy pair of glasses that has cameras and sensors in it that track where the person's looking as they're interacting with something. And you can use this to, mostly people use this to optimize websites that have got a full design in place. So you wouldn't really use this for things like wireframes. You would tend to use this for visual designs or live websites. So this is actually an example that I did for VAX. So we wanted to optimize the landing page. And what we found was that the first stage of using this website was information seeking. So people wanted to know information about the vacuum cleaner, and it's only then that they gained purchase intent and wanted to know information around that. So they had the order of the content on the page in slightly the wrong way. So the section at the bottom that you see there really needed to go up to the top, and you can see how people were reading that quite a lot. There's a lot of focus on there. So yeah, eye tracking can be really useful as well, and it can show you obviously what people are reading versus what they're not reading, what are they skimming over, what are they rereading, and then you have to know why they're rereading it. So is it because they don't understand it? Is it because they are enjoying that copy and they're finding it really interesting, so they're rereading it because it's a high level of interest? So that's where follow-up questions come in useful as well. Then your typical A/B test is obviously a really traditional way that people would test the difference between copy. So this is where you obviously have two versions of your copy. You make slight variations in the wording used, or the tone, or the structure, and then you make that live, test it with the groups of people that are coming to your website, and then you see which one's converting better, so which one's working well. So there's one method that I definitely wouldn't recommend for copy, and that is anything to do with stakeholders. So they're just so used to, they know the business like the back of their hand. They'll quite often use acronyms and techie terminology, and if you ask them what should be on the website, it just won't be what users want on the website. And don't leave your testing too late, or something like this might happen. So this is a real user study that I did years ago now.
What is a Skype brand ambassador and a Skype moment maker, and is there a difference between them? You know what? I have no freaking idea what either one of those things are at this point. They're both people who make videos on Skype and put them out because someone's supposed to care. I don't know what the difference is between them, or if there is a difference between them. I don't understand what any of them do. I don't understand the point of this website. I don't get this at all. None of this makes any sense to me.
That's actually one of my favourite user videos that I've ever had. Like, I'm keeping that forever. And this website no longer exists, surprise, surprise. It really tested badly. And you can see there's a lot of copy there. And they're talking about, let's have a look, we've got star moment maker. They talk about brand ambassadors. They talk about all sorts of these gobbledygook terms that nobody understood at the time. And it was before influencers. And really that's what they were trying to do here. They were trying to make people into influencers and brand ambassadors for Skype. But it just made no sense to people. They had no existing mental model of that. And the website didn't do a good job of explaining it in simple terms that they could understand. So they spent all this money designing the website, launching it. Then they decided to user test it. It tested really badly, and people weren't signing up to it. They knew why, because the website was so rubbish and they'd have to spend money redesigning it and rethinking the whole thing through again. So yeah, they got rid of it completely, total waste of money. So that's what we don't want to do. We want to test early. So 3 of the key question areas that you want to be asking people, you want to be gathering data to understand what their understanding is. So things like what does fees for checked baggage mean to you? So you know what are they thinking inside their head? What's their understanding? What's their meaning that they attribute to something? How do things make them feel as well? So what feelings are they experiencing? So an example here, infants travel free, but tickets must be booked at the airport. How do you feel when you see this? So tapping into those emotions as well, because we know that emotions are really persuasive within design. And then we want to know what their expectations are as well, based on what they're reading. So get rewarded for exploring. What do you think will happen after you click this? So they're the 3 key areas that we want to be understanding from testing copy. And here are some little tips. So you need to be testing the real UX copy from the start, so no lorem ipsum, as I said earlier. You want to be involving your copywriter ASAP in the process and in the test process as well. So sometimes people do ask me, who should be watching the user research? Should we invite the copywriter? And yeah, you definitely should. It always perplexes me why you wouldn't really, because obviously they gain so much knowledge and insight from watching users talk about the product. You should also show the copy in context with the design and recruit the right users to get the best results. So we don't want to be testing our copy with employees, our colleagues. We want to get the right people to test them so that we can get the right words that people are using. And in any research that you do, I would suggest adding some questions to test the copy. So it's not that you have to go out and do a specific piece of user research aimed at copy. It could just be a piece of research that you're doing on anything on the website, but include some questions to test the copy within your discussion guide. And always observe non-verbal cues as well from people as they read your copy. So just look out for which parts do they appear to be rereading. Do they look confused at all? If they do, then you can obviously ask them a follow-up question about that. Do they sometimes people smile or chuckle, and then at that point you can say, oh, what made you do that reaction? What was it that you read that made you smile? So yeah, observe them as well as listening to what they say, and then you can follow up with some questions that are relevant to that as well. Okay, any questions?